Hello everyone! Adding animation to the light and background is one of the quick ways to present your art as an animated illustration. In this tutorial, I will show you 4 animation techniques from CLIPSTUDIO features that you can use to create an animated illustration by the movement of the light, the camera view, and the background. It's very fast and easy. Let's start by preparing the file. For the animated illustration, I recommend working on a new canvas, so you will not get confused with the layers. Create a new file. On the illustration project panel, you have an option to create an animated illustration. You can set the scale and the frame rate. If you want a longer animation time, you can reduce the frame rate, but lower frame rate will make animation less smooth. This option is very useful for the CLIPSTUDIO Paint Pro version that have the limit of 24 cells for animation. When you create the file, you will have an animation folder, and on the timeline panel, it already has the timeline with your setting. If you use the older version of CLIPSTUDIO that doesn't have this option, you can clear it by clicking on the Create Timeline icon on the timeline panel and set the playback time and frame rate manually. In this tutorial, we are not going to create the frame-by-frame animation, so we don't need the animation folder. You can delete it. Import the art to the new canvas. Go to File, Import, Create File Object. The art is not transparent. Go to the original file and delete the paper layer. Save the file, and in the new canvas, it will automatically change. If it's not changed, you can click on the Update the File Object option on the Tool Property panel. Now you can move the art without touching its original file, and you are ready for the animation. Technique number 1. Animating opacity. Let's create some cool hexagon background with the light animation. I download the hexagon material from the CLIPSTUDIO asset. Drag the material to the Layer panel under the Character Object layer. Adjust the size and position with the Object tool. Make selection from the Object layer. Right-click, Selection from Layer, Create Selection. Create a new layer. If the line is too thick, you can shrink the selection and fill the color. This shrink selection will leave some gap on the side. Adjust the size to fulfill the canvas area. Copy the layer and apply the blur filter. Go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. Put both layers in a layer folder. This is for the background when the light off. For the light color, copy the folder. Lock the transparent for the current layer and fill with the light color. Now we have the background in the light on and light off mode. It's time for animating. On the timeline panel, collapse all the folders to avoid confusing. Select the light layer. Click on Enable the Layer keyframe icon. Click on the opacity bar, then click on the cell where animation will start, and adjust the opacity down to 0. The keyframe will automatically create. Select the cell where the animation will end, and click on Create a new keyframe icon. This keyframe will have the same opacity as the start cell. Click on the middle and adjust the opacity up. Now you get a very easy illuminated background effect. Let's add the quick highlight reflection on the character too. Create a selection on the Character Object layer. Create a new layer. Then go to Edit, Outline Selection. Give some thickness to the line. Deselect and blur on the edge. This will give simple highlight on the character edge. You may edit some detail manually. Set the layer mode to add glow and clip it to the character object. Add a new clipping layer and fill with the background color. Change the mode to multiply and adjust the opacity to apply the brightness on the character. Then animate also the opacity of this layer to match the background. If you want to edit the layer, you can disable the layer keyframe option and edit the layer. When you enable the layer keyframe again, the keyframe will stay the same. Technique number 2. Mask animation. Instead of just illuminate, let's add the movement to the light with animation on the layer mask. Use the selection tool, Polyline, and create the selection for the light strip. Then right-click on the light background folder, Layer Mask, and Mask Outside selection. Select the mask thumbnail and apply the blur filter. When you enable the layer keyframe, it will have the timeline bar for the mask keyframe. Create a new keyframe and move the mask to the left with the object tool. Then select the end cell and move the mask to the right. The moving light effect is done. Very easy. If you want the light to move faster, you can adjust the keyframe position. Let's also apply mask animation to the character objects. Instead of repeating the whole steps, you can copy the folder of the light background. Disable the layer keyframe first, then delete all the layer inside. Move the folder above the character, then bring the highlight layer to the folder. The layer mode is not work, you have to set it on the layer folder instead. And also clip it to the character folder. When you enable the layer keyframe for the folder again, the light will move in the same way as the background. If you want the light to shine in the larger area, you can disable the layer keyframe, select on the mask thumbnail, and paint the area with a soft airbrush. Enable the layer keyframe again and it's done. Not only moving left and right, you can also apply the rotation movement to the mask. At the start keyframe, resize the mask so it covers the area when you rotate. And on the end keyframe, in the Tool Property panel, set the rotation angle to 360. Change the keyframe to linear interpolation mode by changing the keyframe option. And add the keyframe again to the same position. Drag the end keyframe to the edge. This will make the mask rotating in the same speed and seamless route. Technique number 3. 2D camera. You can have multiple camera folders to display the different camera view for each object group on the same canvas. Create a new 2D camera folder. Go to Animation, New Animation Layer, and 2D camera folder. Put all the background into the camera folder. Then use the object tool to adjust the size of camera view. Be careful when you adjust the camera view, it will automatically create the keyframe on the camera folder. You can preview the camera by the option Show Camera Field of View on the Tool Property panel. I put the character object in another folder, and this looks like it has some distance to the background. Technique number 4. Fire Object Animation. Let's create a cool synchronized background that uses only one fire object. Create a new file. Keep the animated illustration setting the same as the animation file. Delete the animation folder. Create a new layer and draw a hexagon with the figure tool, Polygon. Create a selection of the hexagon. Expand selection. And crop the canvas. Delete the paper layer and save the file. Back to the animation file, import the hexagon, go to File, Import, and create file object. Select the file object with the object tool, and in the Tool Property panel, enable the tiling. Back to the hexagon file, enable the layer keyframe and create some shrink animation. When you save the file, the animation will also show on the main file. The problem for the hexagon tile is it cannot use the tiling option to make it into the hexagon tile. To create the hexagon tile, rotate it 90 degrees and enable the tiling direction to one side. Copy the file objects and place it next to each other. Repeat the step to fill the area. Make sure the layer order is arranged. When you play, the tiles are moving all together. Let's create a synchronized movement from left to right. On the timeline, click and drag on the small bar above the grip bar to shift it back. You can see the tile is animating by order now. But some tiles are missing because it disappeared from the timeline. Right-click on the last frame and split clip. Then drag it to the front. Expand the clip to the end by dragging the small square on the clip bar corner. Now all the tiles appear and the synchronized animation is done. I change the background to light color and adjust the opacity by put all the tiles into the folder. I also add a bit rotation, it looks more cool. I hope my tutorial gives you some ideas on using these features on your animated illustration project. Enjoy animating and see you in the next tutorial.